Three workers, X, Y, and Z, work in a factory. The following particulars apply to them. Normal rate per hour, shillings 4. Piece rate, shillings 300 per unit. Standard output is 2 units per hour. In a 40-hour week, the production of the workers is as follows. X produces 50 units, Y produces 80 units, and Z produces 120 units. Calculate the earnings of the workers under Taylor differential piece rate system, and also show the cost per unit under this method. Now, Taylor, who is also known as the father of scientific management, originated the Taylor's differential piece rate system of accounting for wages. Under this system, no minimum wage is guaranteed. The standard output is determined on the basis of time and motional studies. Wages are calculated on the basis of two widely different piece rates. Those attaining or crossing the standard get a higher piece rate, and those not attaining it get a lower rate. The lower rate is based on 83% of the day wage rate. This rate is applicable to those who don't attain the standard. In other words, the inefficient workers are paid using the lower rate. Then the higher rate is based on 125% of the day rate and an incentive of 50% of the day rate. So here workers are paid according to their efficiency levels. If you're efficient, of course, you get a higher rate. You're paid using a higher rate. Then if you're inefficient, you will be paid using a lower rate. So this system was designed to differentiate between those workers who are skilled and efficient and those who are unskilled and inefficient. Meaning that those that are skilled and efficient receive a higher rate. Then those who are inefficient and unskilled will receive a lower rate. So, given this information, let's see how we can compute the earnings of these different workers using the Taylor's differential piece rate. Have a look at the question, then we'll see how we can come up with earnings of each worker. Of course, they also want us to compute the cost per unit under this method. So the first thing which we have to do when it comes to this particular scenario, of course, we need to get the two rates, because we need the two rates, that is the higher rate as well as the lower, rate. So let's say the two rates under Taylor's system are, let us come up with these two rates. Of course, we need a lower rate. Then we also need a higher rate. For the lower rate, uh, Taylor recommends 83 of the standard piece rate. So meaning that here we have to get 83% of our standard piece rate, which is 3 per unit. So 83% of 3, this gives us shillings 2.49 per unit. Then for the higher rate, Taylor recommends that these workers who are efficient, of course, they should be paid using the higher rate. When we are computing the higher rate, we use 175. Why? Taylor says that the higher rate should be based on 125% of the piece rate, which is shillings 3, then plus an incentive of 50% of the piece rate. 50% of the piece rate. Shillings 3. This gives us how much? This gives us shillings 5.25 per unit. So those are the different two rates which we have. The lower rate for those who are inefficient and unskilled, then the higher rate for those who are efficient and skilled. All right, so since we have these two rates, now we need to find out who is efficient, who is non-inefficient. We have different three workers, X, Y, and Z. But we need to find out what is the standard number of units. Standard number of units in a 40-hour week. The standard number of units in a 40-hour week. Remember, they have told us in the question that the standard output is 2 units per hour. So if I have units, also have hours here. And they're telling us that to produce 2 units standard, it takes us 1 hour to produce the 2 units. Now, if we have a 40-hour week, if we have 40 hours, then what should be the units produced? Okay. So your standard number of units in a 40-hour week should be 2 times 40, giving us 80 units. So the standard time, the standard number of units in a 40-hour week is 80 units. Now let's compute the earnings of these workers. earnings of the workers. We have X, we have Y, then we also have Z. Remember, X produced 50 units. Now, if X is producing 50 units, yet our standard number of units in a 40-hour week is 80 units, but X is just producing 50 units in a 40-hour week, then X is not inefficient. So meaning that we are going to pay X using the lower rate. Remember, the lower rate is for the inefficient workers. Okay. So 50 units times shillings 2.49 times shillings 2.49. That is X. How much do we get? Let's compute and we see the earnings of X. 50 times 2.49. This gives us 124. $124.5. 124.5. Those are the earnings of X. Then when it comes to Y, Y produces 80 units in a 40-hour week. And according to our computations, the standard number of units in the 40-hour week is 80 units, meaning that Y is efficient. So we pay Y using the higher rate, which is 5.25. 5.5. So the earnings of Y we have for 20. Z in a 40-hour week produces 120 units. Which rate should we use? Of course, for Z, we have to use the higher rate, which is 5.25. Z is producing more units. The standard number of units in a 40-hour week should be 80, but Z is producing 120 units, so we have to use the higher rate. 120 times 5.25. This gives us shillings 630. So those are the earnings of these workers, X, Y, and Z. Of course, in the question, you also required to compute the cost per unit under this method. So you can compute the cost per unit. Let me just do that here. Cost per unit. Now, cost per unit, you just get these earnings of each worker over the units they are producing, okay? For example, if we try to look at X, X is earning 124.5, but X produces 50 units. So that gives us 2.49. This is 124.5 over 50 units, giving us 2.49. That is per unit. And look at Y, the earnings are 420, that is producing 80 units. So the cost per unit is 420 divided by 80, that is 5.25 per unit. Then for Z, Z receives 630, but this is from producing 120 units. So the cost per unit is 5.25. Yeah, 5.25. Those are the different costs per unit. And this presentation, we have seen how to use the Taylor's differential piece rate system. In my next presentation, of course, I will show you how to use the numeric differential piece rate system, and then how to use the Gantt's task bonus system. Thank you for watching. This is Senior Huntington, your accounting tutor.